Blog Talk Radio.
Winston-Salem, it's Sunday Night Dead.
This is the Sundman, and you're listening to Sunday Night Dead, a show I can move my arms around.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Night Dead. This is Matthew Slozer from Autumn Moon Paranormal here in beautiful Winston-Salem, North Carolina, a very spring-like Winston-Salem this weekend. Everybody up in the Northeast, hope you guys are doing okay digging out from the big blizzard up there. I got to say, dealt with a number of those when I lived up in Pennsylvania for quite a long time, and I must say I do not miss it one bit. So hope everybody is safe and sound. I know a bunch of people were without power earlier in the weekend, so hopefully everybody is back and all warm and doing okay. Had a great weekend last weekend. For those of you who listened in, thank you very much. We had our Zombie Bowl 1, which was the Orbs prevailed in Zombie Bowl 1 over the Zombies 24-23. Interesting game, including referees getting eaten, a zombie kicker's foot going through the goal and being counted as a field goal, so controversy, all kinds of things going on there. So that was a great time, and we are going to continue some of our discussions from last week into this week as well. We have Drew Winders and Patrick McKenzie with us this evening. They were in our Zombie Bowl Roundtable last week, so want to learn more about them, their teams, and also continue some of the topics we were talking about last week, because we had some very interesting discussions going on. But first, let me bring on my co-host, Miss Kelly. You there, Kelly?
Hello.
How are things in Wisconsin?
Very wet. We've had rain all day.
Well, at least, I guess it depends on your perspective. I would say at least it's not snow, but I know people
exactly.
would rather have snow. So.
No.
And I believe we have from South Jersey Soul Searchers, John Coghill. I'm gonna see this.
Hello.
John, is that you? Yeah. Okay.
This is me.
Getting pretty good. Getting pretty good with recognizing phone numbers here. So that's good. How are things there? Yeah. How bad was it in your part of the world, snow-wise?
Not bad. South Jersey wasn't bad at all. There was a couple inches, and as it got further north, it got worse. But we were fine.
Yeah, I think I was seeing from posts from my friends back home. They only ended up getting like 6, but I know up closer to Boston, they were saying 30 plus. So I've been in. I think hasn't been a lot. I think I've only seen that maybe 2 times, where it's even been in the high 20s, inch-wise, and it's not fun. It's a real pain in the neck getting around. So anyway, I'm going to jump right on here and bring in our guests, Mr. Drew Winders and Patrick McKenzie. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Hey, Matthew.
Doing great. Well, I thank you guys for coming back on. We had a really good discussion going last week with some of the things that actually, when George Lopez called in, we had some interesting scenarios we were discussing. So I do want to get to that a little bit later on. But for our audience who may not be familiar with both of you, I guess we'll start off with Patrick here. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the paranormal and your team?
Sure, and I'll try to not be too long-winded on this one. It started when in my childhood, my first childhood memories, Matthew. I'm going back. I'm thinking around 5, 6-ish. I had night terrors. I've really blocked out most of what I've seen back then, but whatever it was very frightening. And this continued. I do have memories from a little bit older childhood memories of seeing apparitions and experiencing things, and that kind of followed me all through my childhood. And I've tried to avoid the paranormal most of my life, all the way up into adulthood. I didn't watch paranormal movies. I didn't watch, horror shows. I didn't tell ghost stories. I just really tried to stay away from it. And I noticed that it seemed like every time I turned around, I was getting pulled back towards it. And eventually it led to a scenario one night to where I was dropping off my daughter at her mother's place, and I noticed an apparition that I saw there. And I kind of ignored it then, and I discussed it briefly with my ex, and I noticed as my daughter was approaching, she'd been out walking the dog while me and her mom were chit-chatting, and I watched her, and she's looking at the same spot where I'd seen the apparition. And as she approached, I asked her what she saw, and she kind of played it off and said she hadn't seen anything too, and I kind of knew better. And I pressed the issue a little bit, and finally she looked at me and she kind of dropped her jaw and she says, "You see it too." I said, "Yeah, so tell your mom what you see." And she told her mom exactly what I told her.
Oh, wow.
And it really kind of blew my mind, and her mom actually just shook her head and said, you guys are freaks, and walked away at that time. And so me and my daughter had some very long conversations following that.
You are kind of scary, Pat.
I've been told that. I've been told that a few times. And you know, it wasn't anything. It was a residual type thing, but we had the exact same impressions from it. And you know, it's funny because you know that was just a couple of years ago, and really to me, I just recently turned 40 a few months ago, but that was the first time in my life that truly I was validated in what was going on. You know, I spent years wondering if I was maybe, you know, had some kind of mental disorder or, you know, what was going on. I didn't. I knew what I was seeing, but I fought it. You know, we're conditioned to think that this stuff isn't real and this isn't really going on. And that's kind of the way I left it until this happened. And I said, well, I know, you know, crazy people don't even see the same things. So, you know, we talked about it, and then we decided to get into the paranormal and study it and research it, and ultimately came to the conclusion that we could help other people. And we formed Kentucky Paranormal Research Group, KYPRG, and that was in July of 2010. And there was a friend of mine that I worked with at the time, a couple of friends, and they had expressed interest in the paranormal when we started talking about it and become a little bit more open about it, and I invited them to join us as well. And we've been investigating since. That's pretty much it in a short tale.
Well, I got to ask, so, you know, you had the experiences and the rather traumatic experiences as a kid with these things. Do you, looking back on it now, notice anything or see anything with your daughter when she was little that now, in hindsight, you're like, you know, was she having lots of nightmares or strange things going on that may have been related to this?
You know, I've looked at that a lot, Matthew, and that's something, you know, it's kind of haunted me personally to think about in the past. And, you know, I can't think of one. Of course, you know, she had the normal fears that most children do. At one point, I was fairly successful financially in life and had a pretty large home. And, you know, she wouldn't walk upstairs by herself, or, you know, when it was bedtime, you had to escort her. But, you know, that's fairly typical and normal. She don't recall really seeing anything from her earlier childhood. She didn't, you know, scream a lot at night or, you know, anything like I did in that regard. But, you know, it's funny. I have some interesting pictures that mostly I keep to myself, and me and hers looked at them and discussed them, and there seems to be a few that have anomalies in them, and the anomaly kind of appears near her, and her facial expressions kind of show that, you know, it wasn't just there. You know, there's a possibility in reviewing the picture that she may have sensed or seen something, judging by the way she had acted at the time. I really don't know, and she's not really recalling anything from younger times. But I've never seen anything, or we've never brought out anything that's you know, scary or harmful or hurtful with her. But that was mostly more drawn to me. Now, a real interesting point that I'll add from my childhood, and I just recently discovered this actually through Facebook. A friend of mine that was not a real close neighbor, but lived, you know, in short walking distance from me growing up. We, not too long ago, got reacquainted on Facebook, and I discovered that she had similar issues in the house that she lived in down the street from me. So it might have been a geographical thing. There was an old abandoned cemetery on top of the hill that kind of overlooked both of our homes. So there might have been some issue there.
Interesting. Well, and I'm not forgetting about you, Drew. I'm just curious on here, and curious people's thoughts in the chat room, or if anybody would like to call in, feel free. 646-929-2384, and I'll also kick this around for everybody's thoughts. But you mentioned about some of the typical kid things about being afraid to go upstairs, or I'm sure almost everyone. Cause I've heard this over and over again, and I know I've experienced this myself. Almost everyone as a kid would have like that, one room or one area that if the lights were off, they hated, going through there at night. What are your thoughts here, Patrick? Is it just the fact that we have more wild imaginations as kids, or do we have, as you said, we're conditioned to kind of tune this stuff out? Is it just a matter of that we are more sensitive and not learn to tune these things out, and are actually possibly picking up on some things in maybe that room or part of the house that we're not comfortable with?
Well, I'm not sure. And, the thing about it is, with me looking back, I've never, I listened, and I kind of, when we were on the air a few episodes ago, I think Mike Bowler had joined us, and I believe it was him. I may be wrong. I'm not trying to insult Mike at all, but he might have mentioned it, and I might have misunderstood how he mentioned it. But, we were talking about different structures in new homes being haunted versus old homes or whatever. To me, in my mind, I've never lived in a home that wasn't haunted. And it was funny because I'd visited a psychic just prior to forming KYPRG and even just after, and both the psychics told me that I myself was haunted, which made a lot of sense, and it kind of validated my feelings on I've always lived in a haunted home, and it wasn't the home that's haunted, it's myself. And they said spirits were drawn to me. But, even in that home, it was a brand new home that we bought, and, there were a lot of times that I felt uncomfortable in it in certain places. But it's hard to say. We are so conditioned, and again, during that time, I was trying to tune everything out myself still. So a lot of the things that happened, I'm sure there's many things that happened that I completely discounted or didn't even notice because of that. It may be that she was, and I was cautious and asked her, what is it that you're afraid of? Is there anything specific? Have you seen something? Have you heard something? Have you felt something, that causes this fear, or is it just, a fear? And she never mentioned anything specific, but as a child that young, I'm not sure she would know how to. It's a very interesting question. My personal beliefs on it, I think we all have paranormal experiences pretty regularly, and I don't like calling them paranormal. I think they're very normal experiences, and I think most people discount them, and I think children in general are more sensitive and receptive to it. They've not had the years of conditioning yet, and I think they just don't know how to express what they're going through or seeing.
Interesting. That brings up a really good point, too, about the we've had this discussion before about in some of these cases, is it the location or is it the person? And we can elaborate this a little bit later. But Luana Kurz, who's one of our hosts here on Sunday Night Dead, had I call it the dog park theory, that when you're recording some of these EVPs, like I've talked to a lot of other people that seem to get this, and I know for myself personally, I get what I would consider a disproportionate number of audio saying, F you, or, something rather not very nice. And the one theory that she was talking about, which I found pretty interesting, was there could be spirits around you interacting with the spirits in the location that you're coming to. So if you picture kind of like, and the dog park analogy is mine, but I mean, if you picture taking like a a dog into a new situation where there's other dogs, they'll typically growl or do all those kind of things that it may have nothing to do with us personally, these nasty comments and things, but there could be some dialogue or interaction going on between entities that could be associated with us interacting with entities in a location. So at least I think maybe she did come up with the dog park, and I forget now. But anyway, as people know by now, I'm rather brain damaged here. So anyway, but before we get, I'd like to get everybody's thoughts on these things, but I don't want to leave Drew hanging out here either. So I would like to bring Drew Winders in here. Kind of the same question for you, Drew. How did you get, just basic things, a little bit of background about yourself, how you got involved in this, and your team.
And give me just 1 second. We've been rushing. I'm actually going to switch phones. It's going to be an Oregon number calling in on you here.
Okay. Well, then until then, we'll wait for that call to come in, and hopefully the orbs don't hijack anything. Going on here. Here we go. See if this... It's chugging. Wow, Blog Talk's really slow. Let's see if maybe, Drew, are you there? No, it's still, hang on. I hope it didn't bounce everybody here.
I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, you're here? Okay. Yeah, it's not showing that you're here, so.
No, I just Patrick.
Oh, okay. So good. Everyone in the chat room, can you still hear me? Sometimes, okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Crossroads. Sometimes it's just slow refreshing here, and so it looks like Drew, we lost him. So it was funny. He was there for a little bit, and then we lost him. So Drew, as soon as you get back in, I'll bring you on here. Until then, we'll keep discussing about some of these other things. I'm going to kick it over here to Mr. John Coghill. Any questions for Patrick and his stories about him as a child, and then also having a child that seems to have these same interactions?
I know I posted a question in the chat, was just for giggles. I was curious, like if you surveyed and asked paranormal investigators how many of them grew up in a haunted house, I wonder how many would actually say they did it, because it seems to be, I know from listening to this show and from people I've talked to, there always seems to go back to somebody has grown up in a house that was haunted, and it sounds like same situation here with these guys. I was just curious if people have run across that.
John, it's I'll tell you, of course, me and Drew host the show as well, and talking to a lot of other groups, we discovered we see that as a common denominator over and over and over again.
What are you looking for?
Most founders of most groups that we've talked to have had some childhood experiences, whether it was in their home or outside of their home, but it started at early childhood. And I know Drew's, I don't know the entirety of Drew's story, but I know he had childhood experiences as well, as I'm sure he'll share when he gets back on the air with us. But yeah, it seems to be a pretty common thing.
Which makes me wonder, and I'd like to get people to weigh in on this one as well. We've talked about before about this idea of if we're interacting with energy, if the spirits are essentially energy, and do we have different frequencies, whether you want to call that aura or whatever, Pete, whatever you want to consider that? Are there certain frequencies that attract and certain frequencies that repel? And I know it's been my personal experience that there seems to be on investigations people that are magnets, and then people that are wet blankets and kind of kill activity. And so I just wonder if it's related. Is it so much that people that are involved in this, that tend to be involved in this, have experiences when they're young because they grew up in a location that had activity, or is there something inherently about them, their energy, something about them that attracts that activity in the first place, that maybe they're picking up and interacting with things that somebody else in that exact same location, exact same experiences would not have had the same experiences. And I think I lost him. He was there, and then I think I lost him again. So, Drew, not sure what's going on here, but as soon as I can get you in, I'll get you back on. So please keep trying. I'm not sure if it's on his end or if it's a Blog Talk thing. So, and I see Paranormal's Crossroads ad that they have early experiences because of believe that we have early experiences because of our abilities. I would, again, I would tend to agree on this. Let's see. I don't believe this is Drew, but let's see who we have. Welcome to Sunday Night Dead.
It's me.
Hey, Drew.
It's Drew. Yeah, sorry about that. We had to go through a couple of different phones. I called in. I have no idea why you guys couldn't hear me there.
No problem. Well, actually, I had you on. I saw that you were in, and then I had you on live, and it sounded like you guys were talking in the background, and so I didn't know if you knew you were on hot or not until I went to you. So I actually had you on hold, and then it ended up dropping. So
okay.
So, Drew, back to our question here. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your team and how you got involved in this.
Okay, well, I'm Drew Winders. I started YPT. It's been 8 years ago now. I've been investigating for about 13 years full-time. I guess the reason I got going in the field in itself was a young child, just like, everybody else was saying. But my experience was a little bit different. It was I didn't see so many apparitions and shadows. Actually, I could hear like a frequency. It sounded like static to a certain extent, and they would guide me to to help them and to figure things out. I used to sit in the Arlington Cemetery in Washington, and it was I'd be surrounded by different people. I've learned how to channel it better, but that's how I pretty much got. That's how I pretty much got started in the field. We're still having problems here on this end, so I do apologize, but okay. I guess the biggest it wasn't until I realized that the biggest thing that I did realize was I was actually talking to a lady one day, and I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and she.
Hey, Drew, I'm gonna quick throw in here. If anyone was listening last week, or anyone that listens to the show regularly, we have issues with the orbs. Who did you predict was going to win last week?
I went with the orbs. Drew went with the zombies.
Drew went with the zombie. Yep, he's got dropped off again. So I think we're having a little orb payback on Drew this evening. So I'm gonna quick go in. We have a caller in here, so I'm gonna bring in area code 971. Welcome to Sunday Night Dead.
It's me again. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm back.
Did you hear my theory? You're getting paid back by the orbs for picking the zombies last week.
It must be. Let's not talk about Ouija boards on the air, okay? And then we're really going to be screwed. So no. But like I was saying though, it was there was somebody that had passed away, and I had no idea. And there was a person that came into our house, and they said, what? I could hear it. This person talking to me and says, "Why did you sell the property?" And it was one of my dad's friends. And I looked at him. I said, "This message is for you." And he wants to know why you sold the family property. And he just dropped his jaw and says, "What?" It was one of those moments, and it's been continuous through my life. Like I said, I learned how to channel it, I guess, better now. It's just finding answers like that we're all trying to do. It's but yeah, so as far as that was my hauntings, is that they were trying to make early communication with me, I guess, is the best way I can describe it.
So how I know you were starting to mention a little bit about like static, but how did that come across? Like how like when you got that message, how
it was, it's like the best way to describe it is like kind of like what the spirit boxes do now, or the ghost boxes do. Where just certain phrases or words come through, and that's how I was able to start gathering the information and being able to channel it. And since then, it's like I said, it's there's a million different things that's happened since then. But it sounded like broken up static is the best way to describe it, and just a voice coming through that that had clear messages, but it was hard to get through. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you say you learned how to channel it, what's different with it now? Or what is?
The biggest thing is that when I was younger, there were certain people, other spirits that wanted to talk to me, that I've learned how to block out. I can channel communication a little bit better. I've tried my best through the years just to not let everybody in. Every once in a while it happens, but I still, just like everybody else, I want to know the answers. But, I've built a wall, is the best way I can describe it. I can feel them. It's like somebody knocking at your door and you just don't let them in.
Interesting. How often is it kind of unsettling? Do you have any kind of unsettling horror movie type interactions with these things when you were younger or anything? Kind of like what Patrick was saying. Were you getting scared by
absolutely.
stuff? Or?
Oh yeah. I mean the night sweats, waking up and having people scream at me that weren't there. All of that. It was a terrifying childhood. I didn't want to watch scary movies. I didn't want to even talk about it. I didn't know how to express the idea, to my parents. I grew up in a really Catholic-based family, so even talking about something like this just was unheard of. You don't do those kind of things in my house. If they would have thought I was crazy. They would have. But now they look back at everything we've done and the research we've done, and all they do is praise me. But I mean, the doors have opened so much; it's channeled a whole new aspect and perception of what we do. But I mean, I'm sure even with you, Matthew, I mean, when you first started having experiences, I mean, it was not something you talked about. You just kind of shrugged it off your shoulders and just kept going.
Oh no, and I've mentioned on the show many times. I've had almost a different view. I in general don't hear things, but it's I'd say it averages about once a year, but it's obviously unsettling when it happens. I'll wake up and see somebody in the room, and they don't last that long. But I'm not dreaming about them. It's not. I just happen to wake up and there's somebody in the room, and for the longest time, even thinking back to when I was a kid, I always put it on my imagination. I actually was kind of into all the creepy stuff, so used to watch the cheesy 50s horror movies that used to be on TV on Saturday mornings and all that stuff, and always chalked it up to imagination. Well, the older I get, these things still happened, which I still wondered if it was my imagination or not. But now that I've been investigating, I have these things might happen in a location, and it corresponds with voices there. So certainly, I started adding things together and believe there's something to it. But I think back to the exact same things you guys are saying. I can think back to rooms and places when I was a kid that I was absolutely freaked out to go through. And it's not like, it was dark rooms. It might just be my grandparents' dining room, for one, was one room that I hated going through when the lights were out in it. There were other rooms I went through with the lights out in it, so it wasn't just simply the lights. So I don't know, what was it about that room? It was, now thinking back on it, was something there. It's just an interesting piece. And I think it is a combination. I've seen some of this going on in the chat room. I think it is a combination of two pieces. That I think there is obviously a location aspect, but then I do think whether it's something to do with our frequencies or something tied to this, that I think we are kind of like a light in a dark area, so I think we attract, and then also there's the area pieces that there's things in general locations, and they may just be drawn to people for various reasons.
Yeah, and you know, it's one of those things, Matt, that I don't consider myself a medium because I can't like automatically sense a situation. I can sense, you know, if there's the heaviness that's in a room, and you know, talking to my dad, I mean, it took him a lot of years to come out and tell me this, but he had it to where he could see people in his dreams, but it wasn't like a dream. It was complete reality, and they actually led him to like grave sites and everything else. He actually, you know, was able to solve a lot of things and missing pieces on some of the deaths in Washington State. And then my younger brother, he has it to the point where he can see apparitions. He can see like full-bodied people, but he chooses to completely block it out. I mean, I can't talk to my brother about it whatsoever. I'm wondering, and you know, I got an 8-year-old son, and he's like, "Dad, do you see this person in the corner?" I'm like, "No, son, I don't." But he swears up and down that he sees that. I'm wondering, I mean, does it get stronger? Is it, you know, there's got to be that possibility too, and I hope not, because, you know, I've seen enough, and I really don't want my son to have to see it. But it's one of those mysteries that I have. It seems like it's getting stronger through genes and genetics.
Well, it's funny. Two related stories here. Before I moved down to North Carolina, I had someone that I really wasn't into. I was interested in all this stuff, but much more behind the scenes. You know, I wasn't kind of out there doing it. And I ran into somebody who claimed to have abilities, and one of the things that they claimed was they could read basically pictures. And so when they found out that I had quadruplets, they asked, you know, do you have a picture? And so I had a picture of my older daughter and the 4 quadruplets, and without ever meeting them, and again, this could be just kind of an intuitive thing by personality, she went ahead and kind of laid out things about, and they were 2 or 3 years old at the time, laid out things about all 5. And it's interesting that she pretty much nailed it, and she didn't know me, so it was pretty interesting. But the one thing she said about my one daughter is that she's going to see spirits. And it's interesting, this is the oddest thing. It doesn't make sense from even an investigation standpoint, but I kind of rotate taking my kids to breakfast Saturday morning. It's kind of our own one-on-one time with each one of the kids. And this was years ago. My daughter's sitting there, and she insisted she saw a little girl staring out the window of the restaurant in an area where there wasn't anybody. And she describes her and can still describe her. And this was like 3 years ago. She still mentions this. So, you know, I always kind of file it in the back of my head and see what's, you know, I certainly don't want to encourage anything, but I keep that in mind. The story I was going to tell you guys, and I forget when I did mention this one other time on here, but just freaky, and I chalked it up to stress when it actually happened, and I probably would have given my mother-in-law a heart attack. Right before the quads were born, my wife was in the hospital, and so we had my older daughter, and so my in-laws were here to help out, and I'm sleeping, and again, I did chalk this up to stress, but it's an odd experience. Was not having a nightmare. Best way I can describe it, I was woken up by hearing someone say, "Wake up, they're coming for you." I was facing out the window. So again, not a nightmare. That just woke me up. Just that, you know, wake up, they're coming for you. I turn around, and in the doorway is a guy in a uniform. With best way I can describe it, if you've ever seen, it was a cheesy movie from the 70s, but the Sentinel, where there was the girl was like the guardian of the gate to hell, and it was this guy in a uniform with just a whole bunch of people behind him that were just kind of very monochromatic. They were like all like a gray or like an amber color. He actually had color to him. And they were all filing into my room. And it was so real, my lungs filled up. I was ready to start screaming. And I'm sure I've never screamed like the way I was going to scream, so I'm sure it would have been really, 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 really loud. And it was getting ready to just start screaming my freaking head off when it all vanished. So,
wow.
You know, at the time I thought this is the workings of a highly stressed out mind because I got, you know, 4 babies on the way any day now, and that still could very well be the case. But again, the more I talk to people, the more these things go. I always think back to that incident. It was a weird, because of the combination of I wasn't having a nightmare, that statement's what woke me up, and I was facing the wall, so it wasn't like I just woke up all scared, and then just happened to roll over on my other side to sleep, and saw all that stuff in the doorway, and absolutely kind of flipped out.
No, well, I don't blame you. That's definitely you know, and you know, I had a dream once, and I know it wasn't a dream also, and it was actually my Uncle Rex had passed away like 2 weeks prior, and it was one of the most. It was so surreal. It wasn't a dream because we're sitting, and it was like Brooklyn Steps, you know, like an old downtown New York or somewhere. That's the way it looked. But I looked at him dead in the eyes, and I said, "Rex, you're dead." And he goes, "I know." He goes, "But I'm okay, and I want you to know that." And I mean, it was so surreal that, I mean, and then, you know, I swear he follows us through investigations. He always makes sure that I'm okay, and it's incredible. I mean, there's so much. We have so many answers left that are unanswered, you know, and that's what makes this field so beautiful, and that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, absolutely, and I hate to share. I just got to share one more then, because this is interesting. Because I had something very similar happen when I was just getting out of college. I think it was, or maybe it was my last year in college. One of my uncles that I was very close to passed away, and it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. We're in my parents' family room. Again, this was a dream. He comes in the back door, and everyone starts having and giving him hugs, and he's smiling and hugging everybody, and he sits down and they're all talking. I'm in the corner of the room, and it's one of those things where it's not adding up. So I'm sitting in the corner going, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And then I say it, and I'm like, you're dead. You're not supposed to be here. He turned, smiled, nodded his head, got up and went out the back door, and I never had a dream about him since. So just,
wow.
Again, kind of odd. But
it is, you know, and why us, right? That's the biggest question, is why do they pick certain people? And, you know, we have to keep going this way and challenging these things in a certain sense. Where's that fluffy bunny? Where's your co-host? Is she even on the air anymore?
She's on. I was giving her the warning that I was going to put her on the spot, so you just you beat me to it there.
I did. So, Miss Kelly Wirtz, what are you doing?
I'm just listening to you guys chatter.
Okay, well, you need to get in there and chatter too. What are your thoughts on all this? See how I am?
Bruce trying to host your show, Matthew.
He's just taking over. He's just taking over. I see how it is.
Well, you know,
geez, you better start talking. We got to talk about your show too.
When you get 4 radio hosts on the same show together, you've got trouble.
Yeah,
Well, Kelly, just even to structure it, how about you? Any kind of kid experiences like we were talking about here, or you know, weird things with dreams that maybe weren't dreams?
Well, the funny thing is, when I was little, I would have conversations with my grandfather who had passed away, and I didn't realize it until I was an adult what was going on. When I just thought it was normal, you know, to sit there, play dolls, and chat with my grandfather. I didn't realize he was dead. And then as I got older, it was like, oh, you know, great. And I just thought I was crazy because there's, you know, mental health history in my family. But, yeah, I've had, when my grandmother passed away, which was only in 98, I had a dream, and my then husband had come in, and he's found me in the middle of the living room with my coat in hand and my boots in my hands, but I was still in my pajamas, and I was going to go to Vegas with my grandparents, the one that I talked to when I was little and then the one that had just passed away. And for me, it was like they were coming to get me, and I was going to go with them. And I always have wondered if he hadn't stopped me, where I would have ended up. Thank God. I mean, I probably would have been in my front yard in my pajamas, and that would have been great. But that's, you know, that's typical of me. My neighbors, you know, they expect that from me now, but, you know. But, yeah, that's really the only two experiences I can recall.
Well, that's definitely a one that gives you chills, because I mean, you could read all different kind of things into that. So yeah, that's definitely a very interesting story there.
It was.
Hey, but
scary.
at least they were heading to Vegas, so your grandparents they're still hanging around here and stuff. They're sounds like they're having fun.
Yeah, I never know what would have happened. I mean, seriously, I thought I was, you know, really heading somewhere, and I was sleepwalking, which I've done all my life, and it's just, yeah, I don't know what would have happened if he wouldn't have come home from work and stopped me. So
it's
that's my story.
That you mentioned that. I had a similar experience as a child, and I don't remember the full details of it, but my mother was called at home. We lived in between. My dad's sister lived on our right side, and her husband and their mother and his brother lived on our left side with his wife and children. And I forget who it was, but one of them called my mom. I don't remember the time frame, if it's day or night or what have you, but they called my mom and informed her that I was walking down the street, and I was sleepwalking, and I don't remember the dream or what happened. I vaguely remember them telling me about it and telling me that, I was claiming to them that somebody had told me that we were going somewhere as well, but I don't remember who it was or the details of it, but I was walking down the middle of the street towards the main road.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like that night that I found you in my bushes, Pat. I had to wake you up.
It might have been.
Yeah,
That's Kelly that's hanging out in the bushes, Drew.
No. She was in your bushes. You came to my bushes. But, I did want to know, though, Kelly, how did you know he was out of milk? I'm curious on this. That's pretty epic. You want to talk about Judge Judy in the radio here. How did you know that? Was that like a psychic, did you have some ESP going on, or how did that work?
No, there's I don't know, there was like a picture I had seen someone posted a long time ago about something about I'm not really a stalker, but hey, you're out of milk. So that's just been my line I've always used. But the scary thing is, every time I use that, I get this look, or someone says, oh my God, I really was out of milk. So it's like, I stopped using it because it creeped me out.
Hey, I hate to throw this in here and stuff, and I don't know if this is coming through on the audio for everyone in the chat, but is someone kind of breathing odd or like whispering to somebody else while they're on the phone? Because Kelly and I have been chatting on the side. I keep getting, and again, not claiming there's anything here. It's just kind of odd. I'm hearing like what sounds like a third person talking. So.
Yeah, it's almost demonic.
Whatever, Pat. You want to talk about that? We can bring that subject up, Pat. We can if you want to. No, I swear it's not me. It might be Pat. You never know. He likes to do his shows naked. So it's up to Pat to admit to that. I have no idea what he's doing. He paces. So.
I do pace, but I'm fully clothed.
Well, we've had. I'm not saying this is the case, but we have had, and some of the other hosts, I know Mike Bowler, who I believe is going to call in the second hour, has had things happen. I actually was helping out on one of their shows on a Wednesday night once, where I had something very odd happen in the room where I was, doing the broadcast from. So again, I just wanted to kind of throw out and check. Again, not saying it was anything, but. Anything odd comes up.
I love it.
So, and I am hearing
Bring
the
them on.
They were hearing it too. So again, so either somebody was doing a good add to the creepy atmosphere, one of us here in the caller thing here, or we had some very bizarre interference here.
Okay, I love the post coming up. Mouth breather ghosts, I love it, and that's fantastic. Your chat room is blown up, man. It's a good show. Yeah, no, I do want to bring up a point though. I have a story to tell. We haven't told yet. And Pat, are you okay with me telling the story about what happened that night?
Yeah. Why not?
You know what? It's me and Pat decided to Skype each other. Okay, we're standing face to face, and for some reason there was like a dark shadow behind him. And I said, Pat, there's something standing behind you. He goes, what? And everything just kind of went crazy. We lost connection. At that point, I was literally launched out of my chair, and I had 3 scratches on my arms that actually caused bleeding like I've never seen. I was launched all the way across the room. I apologize. Here, let me step out of here real quick. It was I was thrown across the room, and Pat, can you elaborate a little bit more on this and what you thought?
I was standing in my kitchen, and Drew was on his computer. I was on my cell phone, and I was holding the cell phone up, and facing it, and Drew saw something behind me, a shadow, whatever, and I saw it on the screen as well, and spun around when he mentioned it, and didn't see anything there. And then he froze, and I couldn't hear anything or see anything. It was just a frozen image. And then he came back, and we talked about it briefly. And I heard this screeching that was, actually before that, I believe, Drew, I'll let you talk about that, where you saw me and it wasn't me.
It was, there was the figure that I thought was Pat wasn't Pat, and it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And next thing I know, all I remember, I was in my office chair. I'm in my office, and it literally propelled me. I hit my head. I woke up. My wife is screaming on top of me. My arm is bleeding profusely. I still got the scars, and actually, you know what, Pat, just go ahead and post those on both of our pages so everybody can see them. But it was claw marks. I mean, something literally clawed me and left me laying there on the floor. And it knocked me into where I was like 10 years old again. I wanted my mom.
Just before that happened, I hear this loud metallic screeching through the phone, and then I heard it behind me.
See, I don't remember any of that. So
you never heard it. It was weird, and it was kind of. It's hard to describe the sound, but I heard it in front of me, and it sounded like it was coming through the phone. But then I heard behind me. Well, you heard. That's when you heard something fall in my kitchen.
I turned around and something crashed.
Yeah, but nothing was out of place. Nothing had moved. And I turned around and kind of backed out of the kitchen and was looking towards the kitchen. And after this sound came through the phone, I heard this. To me, it sounded like a metallic scratch, like metal on metal. And it sounded like something scratching down the side of my refrigerator, my impression of it. I went back and looked and didn't see anything. And that's when I lost Drew completely. And then Drew's wife called me back. And I don't know about everybody else, but as paranormal investigator, I don't get scared typically. We go in investigations, and I'm the first to go into a place by myself and be in the dark, and none of that bothers me. But this was, it brought me back to my childhood. I was literally standing in the corner with my back against the wall, shaking.
I got it. That came through pretty strong there. I'm going to try an experiment here, and then we'll get back to this. We got a request from the chat room. I don't know. I guess we'll try it. I mean, the one way would be to mute everybody, but in case it is coming through on somebody's side, just and this is like the kiss of death for radio to do this, to all be quiet. But we're gonna all go quiet here for 30 seconds or so and see if this thing's still getting picked up, because again, it's just it's very, very bizarre. So I will be everyone just until okay, I'm not hearing it now. I don't know if anyone in the chat room picked up anything, but that was weird. That came actually through pretty loud again. So I'm just going to ask everyone around, because it doesn't sound to me like just breathing. anyone that's calling in, I'm in here alone. Does anyone have anyone in the room with them that's kind of whispering in the background? It's
no
big deal if that's
No.
the case. I'm just trying to figure out what it is, and I've picked it up. See what people in the chat room say, but even the mouth breathing piece of it, I think everyone's been talking when this has come up, with the exception of John. So I'll put John on the spot here. Got a cold today, John, or all quiet on your end?
No, I'm feeling good.
Yeah,
actually.
and you've been on before, and we haven't got it. So yeah, it was weird. I was noticing it, and then Kelly sent me a message, and then I've seen people in the chat mentioning it as well. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, definitely what Claire had said there too. It'll be cool to just go back through, and this is one that I'll actually go back through and listen to in a different way to see if I can figure out what that was, because that was kind of bizarre, and then we call it out the third time here, and it goes away. So, I'm sorry.
To see you catch an EVP on the air.
Yeah, that
yeah.
was
Well, you remember what show was that, Pat, that we were talking about the Ouija board?
I think it was the one with Kelly that was on there.
That's right. You remember how crazy that was, Kelly?
Yes, it was. I was trying to remember because I know I've heard it before. I was just hoping it wasn't just me. It was scaring me for a minute there.
No, like there was that moment that we all paused, and you know, you play it back and you can hear it. It sounded like an EVP coming through the phone. It was on the air. It was definitely something, and I try not to think about those things. You know, I hope nothing's falling on us. You never know, though. I mean,
Patrick,
you know,
possessed.
I'm thinking he might be. It's possible.
I've been told that too.
Well, he got my butt kicked. You know, I mean, you know, thanks, Pat. I appreciate it. You know,
we haven't Skyped since then, and
no.
I don't blame him. I wouldn't either.
What do you guys think about that? What, you know, honestly, I mean, I know it sounds crazy and far-fetched, but it did happen. I got the scars to prove it. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, well, I was just curious. What was going on? I always wonder about, you know, circumstances. You know, even if it seems, you know, goofy. What was being discussed? Anything else kind of going on in there? Anything significant or anything odd about what you guys were talking about?
That's the interesting thing, Matt. I've had many experiences personally in discussing the paranormal, or you know, certain types of things, you know, involving the paranormal, and have had experiences due to that. But I believe this night we hadn't mentioned our teams. We hadn't mentioned any investigations, anything of a spiritual nature. It was just two guys chit-chatting on the phone as friends, and you know, this kind of
seeing each other face to face, you know, just hanging out. I mean, there was nothing, you know, out of the ordinary whatsoever.
So it started on Patrick's side, but then happened over on Drew's end as well. So do you think? I mean, what's your? I mean, I know it's all speculation here, but I do think there's something, just like we said, we kind of pick up on things. I do think there could be something with the impressions we get when the things happen. So I'm just kind of curious, how was your both of you? What was your interpretation of it at the time it was happening?
My impression afterward is that this was something that I've dealt with before. And again, this is just an impression. I don't have any evidence to go on whatsoever at all. But I strongly felt at the time, and we talked about it a lot the next day, that this is something that I've dealt with personally on and off throughout my life. And I think it was here to once again harass me, and Drew caught it and gave me a heads up, and it went after him. That's just that may sound crazy to some, but that was my interpretation.
No, I mean it makes sense. And Drew, what about your interpretation?
You know, honestly, it happened so fast. I mean, I remember telling Pat, you know, there's something behind you, watch out. And then, like, there was a crash in his kitchen. And then from there, I didn't hear a screeching on the phone. You know, the communication broke up and everything else, and literally the next thing I remember after that was waking up and my arm gushing blood and being, I mean, I launched 10 feet out of my chair. I mean, from my office to the closet door has got to be a good 10 feet. I was laying there with 3 claw marks, and it looks like they came at me a second time on my arm. It was, I mean, you know, we had to wrap it up immediately. I probably should have got stitches, you know, but I didn't.
Wow.
It was a horrible wound, and like I said, I didn't even know where I was. According to my wife and according to Pat, I thought, you know, I mean, I was way back in time. It knocked me for a loop.
Yeah,
you know, I wanted I wanted my mom.
Drew's wife Elizabeth called me back and was talking to me about it, and we actually had some communication problems and had to make several phone calls to get the conversation out. And I spoke to Drew briefly afterwards, and he was almost incoherent. It was it really didn't seem like it was even Drew. It was very it was a long night.
Wow. Well, I want to. We're at the top of the hour here. I do want to continue this as well as some other questions I have related to this, based on discussions and things I've seen from my interactions with both of you regarding some of these interactions. And again, if we were more than likely picking up somebody's breathing, but we had some very weird noises coming through on the phone here. So I'm just going to go ahead and to be experimental here and say that if somebody's got something to say, feel free to go ahead and say it. We're going to play a song here. We will be back in about 5 minutes with Drew and Patrick. You're listening to Sunday Night Dead.
planet Blair.
Greetings, Earthlings. This is Captain Zorlog of the Carnathian Empire, and you're listening to Sunday Night Dead, a show we consider marginally adequate, and Matthew Slozer, a host we do not, but at least he's better than Vincent.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sunday Night Dead. A rather interesting episode of Sunday Night Dead tonight. We have some strange interference going on here, but I'd like to bring back my co-hosts, Kelly Wirtz and John Coghill. You back there, guys?
Yep, I'm here.
Hello, hello.
Hey, and we'll go ahead and we'll bring back the our guests, Mr. Patrick McKenzie and Drew Winders, if the orbs let them on.
Hello.
Hey, yes, John just added we need to bring back the special titles. I have to actually go back and remember what I gave everybody. I know Kelly was like the penmanship, this Supernatural Penmanship Award, and Ken was the hardest working guy in the paranormal. And John, I'm drawing a blank on yours.
I don't remember.
I was declaring myself. No, it was just because
I don't get a special title.
Well, no. What we did was, it's my response to all the drama out there and all the different things, and so I thought, there were certain things that at least seemed to be driving some people nuts early on with this. So I was going ahead and introducing myself as Matthew Slozer, certified paranormal genius with a PhD in excellence from the Paranormal Pantheon. That was my my title, and then when we had our cohorts coming on, we were giving them all real pompous titles as well. So John wants to bring the titles back. We got to get all these things back and going as well, because that was fun, although it was a bit of a mouthful, and everybody had really long titles. So that's why I kind of lost track of them, because, as I mentioned before, I'm a little brain damaged here. 5 kids will do that to you. All right, so back to this this episode. I am curious. I know Drew kind of reading into things here, but based on some of the posts and conversations that we've been in, you've had some or been on some investigations with some fairly negative or nasty things, correct?
Yeah, that's an understatement. But yes, I've seen my share of them. The last one that I was on was it was here in Cheyenne, and it was attacking the wife and the husband and pinning her down and choking her and everything else. And we got rid of it, but it was definitely it left a few scratches on my neck that night. So yeah, I've seen my share, but like I said, I really do feel there's an increase in negatives unless I'm just prone to them for some reason. I don't get that, but if I am, then I'll just keep trucking on and keep fighting them as best as I can, I guess.
Well, do you think? Just possibilities here. I'm just kind of kicking things around. You seem to be seeing an increase in them. There's other people that do this for a long time and don't run into things. Do you think it could be something related to you, something you're giving off that I don't want to say necessarily attracts them, but that I don't know that somehow you have some efficacy in dealing with these things, and so that in turn, things might pay more attention to you, because just like the thing that was messing with Patrick, they don't like you.
Yeah, I do believe that. I am the absolute badass when it comes to going into a house, and if I have to clear something out, I have no problem with them. I do think that we're dealing with the same things in certain situations over and over again. I think there's that possibility. And yeah, I chase them out of one place and I get to the next place. I do believe that shoot, that's a great question. I love when you put me on the spot like this, Matt. Thank you so much. But I did it to you, so I guess it's only fair.
Yeah, it's what we're supposed to do.
But no, it's a valid question, and yes, I do believe that. Yeah, I've pissed a few people off on the other side. Not our normal spirits, but demonics, and I do think that when they know that Drew Winters is in town, that there's that possibility. They say, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give my best, and their best isn't good enough for me yet. So I hope it never gets to that point. I can't wait to hang Patrick over the portal of hell at Mackey's there. That's gonna be interesting.
Yes.
Brother.
Sorry, Kelly, were you saying something?
Oh no, I was just saying yes. Can't wait. We're gonna dangle that boy right over.
I got the tow ropes. I do. I got some pretty good ones. I'm gonna buy a couple new ones just to make. I don't want to see my co-host die. So we got to make sure we tie him up real good, Kelly. Are you a knot specialist? Can you handle this, or how's that gonna work?
No, you don't. I'm blind. You don't want me to do anything like that. No.
I'm sorry. I'm not hanging from a rope that Kelly tied.
Okay. Well, you're gonna trust me because I might want to drop you on your head to see if we can get some sense in you. You know what I mean? You're gonna really trust me.
That's not gonna help.
Yeah, that's not gonna get you anywhere, brother.
Well, I am interested here in that, kind of got touched on the one of the third rails of paranormal, the Inhumans or demonic type things. I love these conversations, and again, I approach this of that we're all really dealing with theory here. So, I'm just putting forth my own opinions, but I love when I was co-hosting on the show a while ago, we got into this discussion with people that were saying, I never ran into a demonic. I've done 20, 30 years of doing this. I never ran into something that was a demon. And when I pushed or asked more questions on that, it was because, well, nothing was ever aggressive. I didn't have all these different things happen. They don't care about, they're not scared of any person. They're not going to, do anything along these lines. And, my theory always has been is whether you believe in them or not, the way that they are described and described this way in numerous different cultures, and they have different names, so I think personally it might be a matter of semantics, but I think there is overlap that we're talking about the same thing, whatever this entity is. They are described as being deceptive. So my whole point would be the last thing that something that's known for being deceptive is going to do is act the way that you expect it to act. So, I mention this all the time. You never know. We don't know what we're dealing with. And if you have a little girl saying, help me, even if you see her, there's no guarantee that little girl isn't, something 9 feet tall with horns and a tail, Help me. So you don't know. You don't know.
Whoa! What was that? Did you guys hear that?
That was me.
Okay. 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 Yeah. I don't know. Flat on my chair.
The whispering thing was that whispering thing, which again could have very easily been background noise somewhere though, but that was starting to distract me a bit in the first hour as to what the heck was that. So I definitely want to go back and listen to that. But I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts of that as well. So I've seen people with good intentions, but again I think back to the deceptive, do things when they think they're dealing with a little child that they would never ever do in other circumstances. And I've seen people outright invite these things to basically hang out with them, and for all I know that they're still hanging out with them, whatever it was, kind of deal. And so I'm just kind of curious on both your thoughts on that, but we'll start off with Drew.
This is something that it's so funny that you brought this up. Me and Pat were actually just talking about this. I was dealing with a case a couple weeks ago, and it was a little boy in the house. The family wanted to keep the little boy, and Pat, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the one I disagree with you on.
Yeah. We battled on this.
You two don't disagree.
We never do. No, we always get along. It's all lies.
Mm-hmm.
But we were dealing with a situation that there was an evil presence in the house. There was something that, and that's actually the investigation that got scratched on. And it came down to the point that we think we got rid of everything, but there was a little boy that was supposedly playing with the girl, and she was very happy to have him in the house. And he wasn't really a nuisance, but he was like a little child, and they wanted to, I recommended a couple theories that I've been told, okay, if you don't want him gone, I'm not going to, push the button or press the issue. But, give him his own toys and, give him like an area to where, okay, these are your things. Because we had we brought a ball. We brought just a little plastic ball into this investigation. We put it in the living room, and he was pushing it back and forth between us, and it was something to see. It truly was amazing, and he didn't seem like he was harmful, but then Pat brought up a very 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 valid point on this. That what are you gonna do? I mean, you don't know what you're inviting in. So yeah, back to that. I mean, I guess you really never know, but I do feel that if a family feels comfortable with something in their house, there's not much you can do. And you know what? I'm gonna throw the ball to Pat right now, because I know I probably pissing his Cheerios a little bit here, because he wasn't very happy with me when I told him this. I mean, he was being that big brother there and saying, "What the hell are you doing, Drew?" Kind of thing. So. Yeah, once you elaborate, Pat.
Yeah, I actually beat you up a little bit on that one, and
you did. It hurt, man.
I did, and it's out of love for you and the paranormal. But yeah, I used to be the same way. I've had investigations where I've walked out and left it at, there's nothing here harming you. Just, if you can accept that it's here and it'll leave you alone, then, let's leave it at that. But I've gotten away from that. Matthew, I might be stealing from you or somebody else. I forget who says, I believe I've heard you say this, they're not pets.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's always my advice. I think they feed off, my own personal opinion is if you give them energy, that can actually strengthen them. So I always tell the clients, they're not pets, they're not roommates, they're not entertainment.
Right.
Just ignore them.
Well, to me, in my mind, I don't think, with our lack of understanding and the lack of knowledge we all have a theory and a premise that drives us and, that seems to play out in our minds and guides us. And, I'll never say somebody else is wrong or that I'm right, because the truth of the matter is nobody really knows. But in my mind, I don't think that we can, if we open the door to spirit energy in our home, I don't think it's selective. I don't think you can pick and choose. I think you either need to get them out and gone or just leave it open and say, hey, this is great, come on in. I don't think you can really pick and choose as much as what's there, and the problem is, even if you can, you don't know what is there. That little boy, like you said, it could be a 20-foot dragon. I don't know, but
Pat, speaking of which, do you guys hear this on the air? This is really weird.
Yeah, it's back. That looks good. All right, we're gonna try. And again, it could very well be interference, but we're gonna try. What the heck? Let's do a little investigation thing here. Let's although this made it go away last time, but let's do Claire's idea here, and we'll be quiet again, but only for like 20 seconds, because I know dead air is actually like the kiss of death on these things. just real quick, I'll say if whatever we're hearing, if there's anything you have to say, assuming that there's somebody there. Okay, I'm going to add as well, too, before I start getting hate mail and things on this stuff is, again, this is just kind of my mentality on doing all these things is, I approach it very very open-minded. If I see anything odd that happens, in any interaction I have, and then if we have a explanation on the back end, that is fine. I will admit that, more than likely, this is some background noise, but we have 5 or 6 people here that have been hearing something odd during the whole time that we've been on here, and so and I trust the integrity of everyone that we have on the show here, that there isn't anyone in the background whispering or doing anything on their line. So again, we're going to go back and listen to this to try to make out what that noise is. So I apologize to everybody, but again, when
things happen, quit your tapping.
Unfortunately, I'm here by myself, so.
Well, I had a weird, and we'll go into the story later sometime with Mike. But we were doing a show, a Wednesday night show, and again, could just be imagination. But I'm sitting here just working. I'm not even talking. I'm working the chat room on the computer, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, nothing odd's going on. We're not even talking about anything freaky. All the hair stands up. I got chills. I got telepathy, and I just had this creepiest image of something behind me. And so all I did was we had some sensitives on the show. And so I just sent one a message and said, do you ever pick up anything, during the shows? And if you are you picking anything up? Didn't give any other details. Well, they responded back. They didn't get the message till the next day. They weren't on. I sent it on Facebook, and they sent a reply back saying that they were getting a kid and a fire. Well, it turned out that I was starting to do research because I've had weird things happen here. And again, I do the same thing. I just make note of it, but I kind of practice what I preach here. I don't interact with whatever's going on here. I just kind of make note of it and talk to people on the side as it's going on. But as it's actually going on here, I always kind of ignore what's happening. Well, it turns out when I was talking to Mike Bowler, who was actually hosting the show, it was Paranormal Kool-Aid, which is on Wednesday nights. He actually had some history associated with an odd story associated with a fire and a teenage boy. So it was just kind of, again, interesting. Could be a total coincidence, but it was very, very odd. And then we were talking about, much like what you guys are saying with the Ouija board show, every once in a while here, and it seems to be associated with certain guests or topics more than others. Every once in a while, you'll just have very, very bizarre things happen during the show. So very, 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 very interesting. But anyway, kind of went a little long there. You guys.
Yeah, you're okay though. We forgive you.
So, what's your thoughts on all the what's going on here with these weird noises?
It's so funny because it's happened on our show too, not with this conversation, but on the Ouija board. And Kelly, it was crazy. She was there. It was the weirdest thing and it sounded like, and I've replayed it. It sounded like an EVP cut in. It sounded like somebody laughing or something. It was the weirdest thing that I've ever heard. And we actually lost connection at one point of the show, and we're making somebody mad by having our shows, but that's okay. They can deal with it. I mean, I'm not going anywhere, and I don't think Sunday Night Dead's going anywhere, or Paranormal Potluck. Congratulations, Kelly, on your new show, by the way.
Thank you.
I can't wait to be on there. It's going to be a lot of fun, so.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
Well, you got to start talking, though. How are you going to be a host of a show if you don't talk?
Well, I'm listening. You guys are so interesting. What do I have to add to it?
well, you're the co-host. You're supposed to add something.
Okay, fine. How did you two end up, the two people that don't agree on anything, end up doing a show together? Tell me that.
We have a lot of the same. Yeah, we have a lot of the same points. We get mad at each other. I mean, I can't lie and say that I haven't thrown the phone and pretend it was Pat, but it's, I wouldn't trade him for anything. He's the best guy in the world. He is, he's became like a brother to me. But, that's a good question. We definitely go rounds every once in a while, but we always end up at the same conclusion, for the most part. It doesn't end too badly most nights. And if it does, then we just hang up, and then we forget about it. We talk to each other the next morning. So, it works out good for us.
Good thing you're not in the same room.
Do you guys feel you're, now that you guys have been, interacting things, are you guys, how similar do you think your styles are, or different? Are you guys like night and day with how you approach this field?
No,
or?
I don't think so. Drew, we've spoken a lot about pending investigations or investigations we've been on, and to inquire about the other one's thoughts, and I think 90% of the time, Drew, you can correct me if I'm wrong, as I know you would, but I think typically, if Drew calls me and says, hey, I've got this investigation, and I ask him a few questions, and I get the background information, and I say, well, my approach would be X, and I'm thinking Y, and Drew says, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, and vice versa. And so typically it seems, we've not investigated together, but I think, we disagree on some of our viewpoints and our theory of what's going on, or maybe even what's appropriate sometimes. But as far as investigating goes and what's going on, I think typically we agree with each other.
Yeah, and I can't argue with them. We really do. I'd even go like 99% of the time. It's rarely that we don't agree on a situation. We're both board members, along with you, Matt. You've seen us in the boardroom. We can go rounds. And Kelly, geez, we got 4 board members on the same show. Is this allowed? Is this legal, or?
I don't remember anything in the rule book saying we can't.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we better check the rules. But no, we do. Every one of us, at one point, we disagree sometimes. But at the end, I think we're a great team all the way through. I don't think that any of us, and we battle a little bit, but we agree 90% of the time. Most of us do, and that's that pure unity, anyways, that we're supposed to have.
That's what that was about. Oh, okay.
What?
Yet another fair unity, yet another third rail here thing. But again, I'm as other people know on here, because I've gone off on this in the past. I'm very anti-drama. So I believe Mr. Mike Bulwer is calling in here. So let me see if this is who's here.
Uh-oh.
Sunday Night Dead. Who are we speaking to?
What's going on, guys?
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Mike?
I'm just out there in the garage moving a few things around, and I heard this voice kind of come out of the corner saying Sunday Night Dead's talking about you. So I thought, well, I'll walk in and check.
Yes, we were.
Wow. Don't you hate when that happens, Mike?
I'm telling you, it at least give me a little bit of a warning. I did ask whoever it was to finish up the job there in the garage while I made a quick phone call here.
Well, I'll have to add, and hopefully this is a good lead-in for what you and George are doing tomorrow night. So hopefully this is some foreshadowing of it. We're having one of these, and I know we've talked about this in the past, Mike. We're having one of these shows where just some very odd things are happening during the course of the show. So who knows if there's anything to it or not, but this is one that I definitely want to go back and listen to the audio for, but more to find out what the heck these extra noises are that we're getting on the broadcast.
No, I agree, and for those of you listening in, Matt's aware of this, little shop talk here, but Block Talk actually gives us a chart to be able to go in and look at live listens, replay listens, and where the different listeners come for the programs that we put out. And, man, I was thinking they need another category for spirit listens to see.
You just nailed something here. So not only am I going to continue with the title Certified Paranormal Genius, but I think I'm going to start declaring Sunday Night Dead the #1 show in the spirit realm.
There you go.
Until I get numbers to prove me opposite, or to prove me otherwise. So
there you go. Well, we have had some of those strange happenings. Let everybody know several times on George and me doing Primetime Paranormal, the noise, and we hear voices that come out of nowhere, and we don't have anybody queued up. It's simply me and him. Now, of course, there could be interference in the transmission, so like Matt says, you can't really write a whole lot into it, but it is rather odd that at times certain topics seem to bring this issue up more often than others. So, Matt, maybe we need to keep some stats on this and see if there's certain key words, key phrases that we bring up would cause some of this interference, and see if we can't put some math to it and find out where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. I would, and I'll throw out, since I know just about everybody on here right now does a show. Any time you have any of these things happen, let me know, because if you're not familiar with me, one of the things I do is I compile data and look for trends and correlations, because the one way I approach this field is this is, I guess, one of the reasons why I can stay out of the drama, although I still piss some people off with it, is I view myself as a data gatherer. I don't know if we're ever going to get real substantive answers anytime in my lifetime, but the more experiences, the more things we collect, the more things we can look for to see what lines up, what doesn't, that can be beneficial. So, this is whatever's going on here, whether it's storms. Kelly said there's storms going on up where she's at. If it's a meteorological thing that we get more interference, during certain people are calling from certain areas where things are going on or not, who knows? But it is an interesting phenomenon here that, yes, this does happen every once in a while, and it is odd. So,
well, Matt, real quick, and let everybody know, if you've never joined us on Primetime Paranormal when George Lopez, who's the founder of Dead Air Paranormal Radio, is doing one of his live Spirit Box sessions, unless you've got something really important to do, tune in tomorrow night. I am a guy that's been on the fence. I think Matt kind of on the fence a little bit, too, with the Hack Shack, the Spirit Box, the Frank's Box. Nobody does this better than George does. George has been doing this for quite a while, and if you'll listen to his techniques, the key words that he tries to get repeated, the way he goes about this, absolutely amazing. And then tomorrow night, we're going to try to contact not only some of the locals that we have talked about, but Hans Holzer and Ed Warren are two that have come up many a times, Matthew. And that's kind of the direction we're going to go tomorrow night and see what happens. Because when you think about this, who better, if they're able to establish intelligent communication, than either one of these gentlemen who were just monsters in the field, out there. And Hans Holzer goes way on back. For anybody that's not familiar with him, I had a little bit of his bio here. He's basically a researcher, author, did all kinds of, basically had a show, I believe was called Ghost Hunter. Matt, are you familiar with that? I know it wasn't Ghost Hunters, but I think he was the first actual television show that was called Ghost Hunter.
Okay.
That was about him. And then also, everybody's familiar with Ed Warren, Lorraine Warren, who is still active in the community, her husband who passed away a couple of years ago. So it'll be very interesting to see what kind of responses we get tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just got to add for myself, I was blown away when I listened to the Rolling Hills episodes that George had done, where basically they had a spirit box up with Sharon Coyle up in the Rolling Hills Asylum, and he had one in his backyard, and you would hear, he would call out, it's the 4 spirits that he typically interacts with, and you'd hear them basically say their name and repeat it down there, and then soon enough, you'd start hearing it up in the one up in New York. And I mean, interactions actually, picking up dialogue that's consistent with. It would be very interesting. You'd have the dialogue going on the phone like what we're having now, and then you would pick up these interactions on the spirit box that sounded like they were also talking and interacting with the dialogue on the phones. It is an amazing thing. I had the opportunity to investigate with George down in Kerr City a couple months ago and got to see him do the spirit box firsthand. And I got to say, Matthew Slozer is not a common name. And not something that I certainly expect that's going out across, airwaves or phones. And Kerr City is out in the middle of nowhere, so I don't think there was too many signals going through there anyway. To hear Matthew Slozer come through on the spirit box multiple times is it's a pretty interesting thing. I mean, it blew me away as well. And we also had someone in our group that had lost a loved one, and they were on the front porch asking questions. George was on the front porch with him asking questions, and the unit was in the dining room of this building. So we weren't hearing the questions that they were asking, and things were coming through on the spirit box that were significant to the questions that they were asking on the front porch. So just amazing. I can't recommend it enough. Either obviously it's always awesome to listen to it live, but also if you get the chance to go back into the archives and look up the Rolling Hills episodes, absolutely. I approach all these things as, I don't want to say so much on the fence, it's just I think everything's in experimental mode. You see what kind of lines up and what doesn't. And my belief in the spirit box changed or got reinforced significantly after hearing these episodes, because some of the things that they had come through were just absolutely amazing in my opinion.
Well, they got a great week. They got a great week of shows. You can catch his show tomorrow, next Friday night, on Beyond the Line. If I can throw this out real quick, we're gonna have Devin Mark Constantino on the show. Constantino, excuse me.
Awesome.
So if you guys don't know who those guys are, they're some of the best EVP specialists out there. So it's gonna, just something to throw out. It's gonna be a great show.
Yeah, they are, and those guys are great. We've had them on a couple of times. And what I was going to throw out there, Matt, and for your guest tonight, just something to chew on, the great David Roundtree, who comes on, and Thomas Fusco. We get a lot of in-depth discussions on what we're actually gathering as evidence through EVPs, the Frank's box, the spirit box. And as David said, it's basically EMF. There is a magnetic field to these voices we're collecting. Where they're coming from, how they're there, we still don't know. David is not one that believes in the Frank's box, the spirit box, as he says. How are they transmitting this? Well, my thought was, we come up with the same theory. A lot of people will say, are we projecting what we're gathering as EVPs ourselves? Are we throwing out there subconsciously, which we don't know what we're doing? When we do this, we're not aware of this, but a lot of people throw that theory out there that could we be doing this ourselves? Could certain people have this ability? Just as those psychics have certain abilities, that when a person goes to an investigation at the right time, we're projecting some energy out there, which is put into work form. We don't know the science behind it yet that is captured with our digital recorders. Could the same thing not be happening then with the spirit box? And if so, then why, if there's an intelligent spirit around, and we're making a lot of assumptions here, could they not be doing the same thing? And here's a magic thing that I brought up to David and Thomas that I'll run this past you, Matt. If anybody ever had braces when they were younger, the old metal braces, I know they don't have a lot of metal braces now. The kids these days have the clear and the plastic and stuff. But back in the day when I was young, I had a friend of mine. He actually was picking up radio signals and could hear music and talking in his head. Thought he was going nuts. The doctor said it happens to very few, but they had figured out that sometimes these braces would cause noise to come in where they would receive. Now, that's the backwards of what we're doing with the spirit box, but that also was something that nobody was aware of back then, and science kind of had to stumble onto that and understand why just some wiring in somebody's mouth at certain times could pick up things that were out there. So,
yeah, and I agree. I think on some of these things we don't know what we don't know, and I think it's always been the case, and I mean, there's good and bad with it, but I think in a lot of cases we overestimate our knowledge of things, and just because the pieces don't all necessarily line up right now doesn't mean they won't eventually as new discoveries are made. I mean, that's the whole point about discovering something. It's something that wasn't known prior. And so, again, it's just my own personal opinion here. That's why I view this more as a data collection and data gathering with these unexplained phenomena to see, to hopefully help, going in the future as things come on this. And so, yeah, I totally agree. And to me, we play that game every once in a while on here, that Ghost or Host, with the matching up EVPs with words randomly plucked from conversations. And for me, the probability component of this just doesn't match. If you're going to tap into a radio broadcast or a phone call and get only 2 or 3 words out of that phone call, the fact of having those words line up, and again, I'm not saying yes or no. I mean, that's not, I'm thinking more significant, relevant answers. It happens more often than it should if it's just random words coming through.
No, very much so. Very much so. And, that's where George takes this very common sense, logical approach, which you've seen him, actually in person do it, and I've done it with him the couple of years that we've been doing radio together now, that when you throw a lot of logic and common sense and you specifically try to get certain words, and as you were talking about, the 4 that he always brings in as if they're almost the coaching spirits to gather around the other spirits he's trying to communicate with. Amanda, Colette, Michael, and Gabriel are the 4. I can roll that off my tongue because I've heard it so many times when he does this. And specifically Amanda, who was a personal friend of his who tragically lost her life in an automobile accident a couple of years back, that he feels he's able to establish communication with her on many times. And like you were talking about up at Rolling Hills that night, when she first got up there, she basically blurted out, and if somebody go back and listen to the replay, you can clearly hear her say, "not safe." That some of the spirits up there, when she went up there, when George asked her to go up there, that she was up at Rolling Hills, apparently, if this is something that actually happens, and once again, we're going into a lot of assumptions here, that they can possibly travel instantaneously to another location, and went to this location. Some of the spirits at Rolling Hills were coming up to her, and she did not feel comfortable at that point. Very, very interesting spirit box session we had that night with Sharon. But interesting stuff. So everybody, jump on tomorrow night and listen to George do this. I'll be hosting while he's out. George will not do this in his house. He does it in his backyard. He doesn't want anything in the house. So.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. We lost Drew, so hopefully, not sure what happened there. It looks like he may have lost his total connection. So, again, I'll add, Drew was the one in the roundtable last week that pulled for the zombies instead of the orbs, and so he's been having the most technical difficulties. Coincidence? I don't think so. So,
hey, wait a minute. I went for the zombies, too.
You did?
Yeah.
Ah, that's right.
Uh-huh.
See, but you're
I think
playing
the
nice.
orbs got him.
You're being nice and quiet. They're trying to make it. The orbs are trying to make an example of. And well, he also was posting in the chat room that he thought the game was rigged. So yeah, I'm sure he seems to be the focus of the wrath of the orbs. But Patrick, Spirit Box, any experience with those, or your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have. Recently, we picked up the SB7, which I believe is probably the most common box that's being used right now. I've had some interesting results with it, although, and we talked about this a little bit on our last episode, I've not made any correlations between anything I've picked up on the Spirit Box to anything I was currently investigating, though. Every time I've used it, I've had some success with it in having what seemed to me to be intelligent responses to questions I was asking at the time, like the number of people that were with me, their names. On one investigation, we asked, I personally was standing there and I asked, who's here with me, and pretty immediately got Craig and Carson, which is one of my lead investigators, and my daughter, who was with me, and she kind of perked up and said, "What is my age?" And we got back a really strong 12 that kind of was even stronger than the normal chatter that we was hearing. It was pretty interesting, but then we asked some further questions in regards to our investigation once that started, and it kind of went quiet and we didn't get any more responses. I'm not sure what that means. I kind of took it that I've got the impression that it's a good tool, it's useful as far as communication goes. I don't know, though, that we're not calling upon outside spirits to come in, similar, not unlike you would if you had we're using a Ouija board. And I don't want to compare a spirit box to a Ouija board, but it just, I don't know. I think it's an interesting tool for my team. It's something that we have to utilize more. I've only used it on 2 different investigations, and I'm not impressed. It didn't seem to help me on my investigation, but we did seem to get intelligent results from it. So it's something that we've got to utilize some more and pay close attention to in our research.
Interesting. John, I saw that you put in the chat that you've had some interesting results, but also always get a headache from it. What are your overall thoughts of Spirit Box?
I actually enjoy using the Spirit Box from time to time. Like, I like to break it up, doing an investigation, throughout the night. Like, I'll say, all right, let's do a Spirit Box session or an Ovilus section, just to break it up. But yeah, after a while, it'll start getting on your nerves. But I do get some interesting results. But then, like I said, the problem is it's very open to, because you hear, well, did it say 4? Did it say 5? You have a group of people, like 3 or 4 people listening, and it's you got to be very judgmental, I guess, and it will give you a headache.
The other problem I noticed with it, John, and I agree with you, it's not something I use more than 2 or 3 minutes at a time usually, but and again, my daughter's 13 now. So, she's a little bit younger and not quite as mature, even though she's intelligent, mature for her age. She's not an adult. But I notice when I use it around her and we ask a question, she, every word she said that she hears, she's trying to make it make sense to what we're asking. And, I've got to caution her, and, you can't do that necessarily. So, a lot of the stuff, her name being Carson, that's not a super common thing you'd hear on the radio. To hear Craig and Carson after asking for names and then hearing 12 asking for an age, the probability of that, I'm not a statistician like Matthew, but it seems kind of rare for me. I've listened to the radio quite a bit, and I've never heard those things, just come up. But we've got to be cautious using it. We have it's not unlike pareidolia, where we try to make sense out of nonsense. And when we ask questions and hear things come across, we've got to, was it something in between stations? Was it on a station? Was it an intelligent reply, or just something we heard that we're translating into something we want to hear?
Well, I agree with that, and that's why, my own personal opinion here is you use all these things and look for multiple correlations. So obviously, a phrase coming through on a spirit box alone isn't as strong as if you got a similar EVP, spirit box, and also a personal experience going on at the same time that were all related.
Right.
I don't know, like a ball move, going back to that Jedi mind trick thing I was talking about, a ball moves in Tala, you had the spirit box going, and you hear a kid's voice say something about the ball. You also get an EVP about the ball, and then a ball actually moved, things. But, I think that's why we do this. We look to see if we can get those better correlations. And I do agree there is greater chance of the matrixing with these words. But again, it depends on, some of these things come through clearer than others. And so, there's that one that George plays that from, I believe, it might have been Sloss Furnace, where, it's a very kind of odd sentence, and it's very long that comes through on this. So, definitely there's pieces to that.
You're talking about the Skin You Alive?
Yes, yeah.
With Faith Severin and Jody Parks. Yeah, that wasn't Sloss Furnace. That I can't remember the name of the place.
Okay.
It's down there not too far from Sloss Furnace. It was.
It was Alabama, though, right?
Yes, it was. I believe so. Yeah, Faith Severin down there with Jody Parks. So, and that one was in question too. That one actually caused it to stop. You didn't hear any of the static or anything like that. And I agree with what John was saying and what you were saying. I guess I kind of coined the phrase when you were saying that, when you get all that, it's like the paranormal hat trick. Right. When you get several pieces of evidence together. One of the things that I was going to say, and maybe John and the guys can answer on this, I also have an SB7. I've had several different versions of the Frank's Box, Ghost Box that I've used. I started out with the old Radio Shack version years ago. That worked okay. The range on this, now I like the idea. I don't know whether it helps or hurts being able to go forwards or backwards. A lot of people don't realize, I hear people thinking you just do it on the AM, FM, either one, that depending on the location you've gone to, you do get a lot of interference, and you've got to learn to deal with that. In the pareidolia, you can possibly sometimes hear a sentence get put together that was just radio talk. If you could adjust the range on this, and specifically with the SB7 on the FM dial going down much past what most stations would broadcast on, or you're in a specific area knowing that there's not a lot of people broadcasting, and once you get past a certain range, you've got that pretty much open range right there that you could adjust and set an SB7 or your spirit box to just continually loop back in that area and not go all the way up and down the dial like they do. I think that would tremendously help us rule out some of the pareidolia. And if we begin to get something in an area we knew we weren't picking up any radio transmissions, might bring a little more credibility to the spirit box.
Well, Mike, let me ask you, along those lines, do you think that, I've also picked up, you can clearly hear, station by station when it, changes. You can tell a difference, when it's scanning and it's actually hit a station. There's two things. One, I have caught one. I asked, do you know that you're dead? And received, did not die. And it was over the course of about 4 different stations, but it was in the same voice, which to me gave a little bit more validation to it. And the other thing is sometimes that it seems like I'll catch something in between stations, which also will give a little more validation. But I wonder, in my mind, would it be better just to use a white noise generator than the box, where with the white noise generator you're less likely to be picking up, odd frequencies or radio transmissions per se?
I agree with you there, and I hear both sides of the fence on that, because Dwayne Favors, who is my partner I investigate with, wants to go with that, the white noise generator, and actually has one. He does not like the spirit box, just doesn't like the potential possibility. Will tell me, he says, I can't tell you it doesn't work, but there's just too many things that he goes, I'd hate to see you catch something fantastic, a direct answer to a question that, really fit, and then I have to say, but still it was a spirit box. There always is that coincidental possibility. I think the reason is that we're still in the age right now of television shows, of all the paranormal teams on Facebook. I always say everybody out there is great, love everybody, and everybody's doing this for the right cause. But nobody likes to go fishing, and Matt, here's your fishing phrase for me tonight, and not catch any fish. And the spirit box allows a lot of young teams that like to go out, for the sake of being able to show off a little bit, post evidence, show their friends or this or that. Those spirit boxes give them a lot of opportunity to possibly get a fitting answer to a question they ask that impresses their friends, so they're going to be used quite widely with that. But for the sheer sake of scientific research, I agree with you because it goes back, if those of us that have been in the field a long time, to the television, people using the old televisions and the white noise with that, and it wasn't the movie with Michael Keaton, White Noise. You go all the way back to that. So similar scenarios there, and I would go with the white noise, though, if I had to choose one or the other.
Well, and I agree with you 100%. I've got a white noise generator on my laptop. It's actually from a website, and I've experimented with a little bit, but haven't had a lot of success with it. One of the interesting things that I heard from a friend in the community was that they're coming out with a new spirit box that's tuned only to Asian frequencies, which obviously we wouldn't pick up here. But they skip, the FCC only issues licenses on certain frequencies. So these frequencies have been excluded, so it'll only scan frequencies that aren't used to broadcast. Right. So that would be interesting too. I haven't seen one yet, but I heard it was coming out. I'd like to experiment a little bit with it myself.
Yeah. Matt, keep me informed on that. Now, do you have to be looking for Asian spirits for that to work?
Yeah.
Hey, well, I can't believe how fast time's going here. This was a great show. We lost Drew, so hopefully he's okay here. But wanted to quick, Patrick, give you a chance to get out your contact information if anyone would like to get in touch with you and a little bit about your team.
Sure. We've got a website at kyprg.com, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/kyprg. Or I believe you can just search for Kentucky Paranormal Research Group. And then also Drew and I host a radio show. We've been doing Friday nights. This Friday coming, we're going to have Mark and Debbie Constantino on, and I believe this will be our last Friday show, and we're moving to Thursdays. But if they go to facebook.com/Beyond the Line Radio, you can find our radio show. And that's how to get a hold of me. And then, of course, with Drew, Wyoming Paranormal Team is on Facebook as well.
Great, and glad to hear you're not moving to Sunday night. So,
well, we wanted to move to Tuesday, but our fuzzy bunny prevented us from doing that. So
that's right, buddy.
We don't want to be in direct competition with our friends, so.
Well, no, and I want to listen to your show.
Well, sounds good, everybody. Again, we're getting close to getting bumped here. So for Kelly and John Coghill, Mike Bulwer, and our guests Patrick and Drew, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Next week we have Tracy Todd and Emerald Coast Paranormal. Please join us. Have a great night, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.